severe disabilities. These children do have the opportunity to reach amazing milestones while they are with us. We provide prevention and early intervention. We provide occupational therapy, physical therapy. We provide parenting classes. Also, for our deaf and hard of hearing children, their families, we provide sign language classrooms for these children as well. You would be very proud of what they are able to accomplish when they are with us. I will tell you that this is also a personal story. My own brother, who was born before IDEA was passed, was a recipient of services at T.C. McDaniel. He is now in his mid-50s. And because of the services that he received at T.C. McDaniel Early Learning Center, he was able to be put on a trajectory to be able to live semi-independently with a lot of support. But this is a facility that is 50 years old and has not had a lot of upgrades in the meantime. We have children who are in these facilities that are the same facility that my brother experienced 45 years ago. These days, the state is doing more than ever for our special education students, and learning environments matter. Learning environments matter. We have carefully maintained T.C. McDaniel Center, but it is still not ADA compliant. Our exits still have stairs, meaning that students in wheelchairs must be carried down the steps during an emergency. Our drop-off zone is crowded with vehicles and students because we are adjacent to an elementary school that, by the way, has just recently gone through a whole new remodel. And so if you're talking about equity, you're talking about children who are typically developing children in facilities who have recently been remodeled, and you have 3 to 5 year old children who are in facilities that are in dire repair, in need of repair. It seems unfathomable today that we are having to carry children in wheelchairs down steps during an emergency, but that is the reality.
Right.
This facility does not even meet CDE's safety standards, and this facility is in desperate need of an upgrade. As a county office of education, we are prohibited by law from raising local revenues from school bonds. We are totally reliant on the state bond program, which makes us a financial hardship district. I will be the first to concede that the priorities in funding or the PIF process works for the majority of districts, for the vast majority of districts, but it falls short of for financial hardship applications from a county office of education, which account for 25% of all rescissions since 2013. Our case typifies the reasons why. Without local resources, we can't pre-fund our construction and await state reimbursement. We can't submit applications, wait years for a new statewide bond, and then cover, as you can all imagine, skyrocketing construction costs using local dollars. Which leads to the question, why didn't we just participate in the PIS grant rounds just like everyone else? The answer is we tried. We made every effort to do so, desperately, to complete everything in time. The first round happened in December of 2017, 4 years after we had applied. So our DSA plans had expired. Construction costs had exploded, and so a full redesign was necessary. There was zero chance that we could have redesigned our project and received DSA approval before fall of 2018. While our school districts have local resources to get it done, it's literally impossible for us to do so. So today, I am respectfully pleading for you to reinstate our 2 rescinded projects and place those projects on the unfunded list. From there, we would participate in one of the next 2 priority and funding rounds. In reality, this means that we will have approximately 12 months to get it all done. and the state's bond authority will not be tied up indefinitely. The alternative, if you can't help us today, is that it will be virtually impossible for our kids to have modernized facilities. The next opportunity we will have is 2023, and that is if the state bond passes. And we will again have outdated design plans and be right back where we started, with exploding construction costs. In the meantime, a new generation of children will have passed through T.C. McDaniel Early Learning Center's doors in outdated facilities, the very facilities that my brother was in 1974. And it's not the fault of the incredible children that we serve. The PIF regulations simply do not work for a county office of education serving children with moderate to severely disabled children such as ours. Never would I have imagined that children in 2019 would be using the same outdated facilities that my brother Alex was in 1974. Thank you so much for your consideration. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, and I think the story of your brother is so beautiful, and he obviously has an incredible legacy, and I think so many of us have stories of someone that's gone through special ed, and it's the reason the state has invested billions and clearly will continue to do more because of that, because there are ways in which our system has fallen short in the past, and the issue we have before us today is how this has worked for other folks and where other folks are in the line. And as compelling as the story is, it's always difficult when we're making decisions on a statewide basis, and the very same people could be in line that have actually managed to comply with the PIF standards. On that, obviously when we look at things in the aggregate, it sounds as though you're suggesting this may be a problem for other financial hardship projects. But many of them have been successful, and we know that. So I really just want to be careful to speak so globally when what we know for a fact is the way our funding works, which may need to be reformed in the future in future bonds, but that there are folks for whom this has worked. They've managed to comply. They've managed to get it in on time. And then just to be 100% clear, the County Office of Education's plan approvals expired in 2005, and the State Allocation Board put the projects on the acknowledged list in 2017. So I want to just make sure we have just all the facts straight. Mr. Lennox, did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Chair. In general, I would concur with what you said and what the superintendent said, that the PIF process works for the vast majority of districts, including financial hardships. What's really unique here is that T.C. McDaniel was on the very front end of, in 2013, this point in time when we ran out of bond funding. So that meant that they were very first in line when it came to actually releasing the bond authority in 2017 and 2018. I don't anticipate you'll see a lot of cases like this post 2017-18 because everyone was on notice at that point. But at the time that this project went through, it wasn't clear until the board took a vote in June of 2017, several months before the PIF process started for Solano, that they would be going through the old lists as they did. There was some question of whether all the districts would reapply. That clarity has been established, subsequently.
Yeah, I think, again, I want to keep to the facts, especially in terms of statewide need. And, there's $700 million worth of projects on the acknowledged list. Several dozen of those are hardship. I mean, I think the issue is not that, obviously, your story is, again, so compelling. The issue is what we do vis-a-vis the rest of the entire state. And that's always the trade-off, unfortunately. And then I just, I think some of the delays that we've seen from all the details from the staff work going back and looking at it, it does appear that there are some local choices that have been made in terms of the project on the campus you're talking about that actually aren't, that are unrelated with actual construction projects. So it's hard for us from up here to know what's going on the ground, but there have been local choices that perhaps if those had been different, could have put you in a different place here today. So I
Madam Chair?
think that's true. Yes, Mr. O'Donnell.
I just got to jump in here. Listen, I don't think we have a process problem. What we have is a staff level incompetence problem, okay? And I'm a little nervous. You had me before you walked in here, but the way you kind of presented the problem was like something that we created. Listen, we're here to help you. There is a process. Other districts can do it. For some reason, yours didn't. Now, I understand it was before you were there. So can you walk me through, has there been changes made so that a situation like this wouldn't occur again? Because you're asking us to step out of our normal policy, our normal process, and kind of give you guys a pass here. And if we're going to do that, we need to know that you're not going to be back to us within a couple of years. You want 18 months. I think it should be a year, quite frankly. I don't think you should get more than a year. I have a problem with even a year because there's a lot of people in line that did this right, and your district, your county office, did not. So have you taken a look at your own organization? And again, I want to put this solely on you because my understanding is you're newer there to ensure that we won't be back here with this in the same situation in a year, 2, 3, 18 months.
Yes, Assemblymember Cunningham, I really appreciate your question, and it's a very good question. And I will tell you that we have made staff changes. I am a new county superintendent to the County Office of Education, and I can't speak for the decisions that were made before, but I can speak to my commitment to making this right on behalf of the children
Fortunately,
that
you're
we
speaking to
serve.
them now. That's why we're here, because someone before you, and ultimately the organization's responsible no matter what day it is. Going
Yes.
back, going forward. Our names are right. I'm O'Donnell, that's okay.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry.
same
I'm so
motherland,
sorry.
different people.
I apologize. I apologize for that.
Yeah. But either way,
I find it a compliment for both of them.
but either way, again, I wouldn't want to go beyond a year personally. Do you need more than a year?
No, we will get this done within a year, and I appreciate your questions, and it's a valid concern, and I am here to make it right, and I have made staff changes since I've been on board.
And again, I want to really highlight that others have done this,
Yes.
and others have done it right, and for some reason your organization didn't, and that's why we're here today. I don't want to just say, well, the process. Now, if there needs to be tweaks to the process, I'm quite open to that. But let's just admit that there are mistakes made, see what we can do to serve the children of your county the best we can, and then move forward. So thank you.
I absolutely concede to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Senator Leyva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think your case actually illustrates that the priorities in funding is not a one-size-fits-all. And I think that we need to have the space as a board to make exceptions. So when, at the appropriate time, I would actually like to make a motion that we support the appeal for Solano County.
Great.
So just for clarification, Madam Chair, is that 18 months or 12? Because you said you could do it within 12. Is that accurate?
We have made the commitment to do so.
Okay. Is your motion for 18 or 12? I can support 12.
I didn't have a timeline.
I think the motion, isn't the motion ask, isn't the ask for 18? Was this,
The county's ask is for 18. The
but you
board
can do it in 12?
committee can obviously do anything.
I just want to clarify the timeline here.
Thank you for the clarification. We've talked with OPSC staff to clarify, but it's not been made clear to the rest of the committee members. The ask is to reinstate the project, 2 projects to the unfunded list, which would place those projects back on the PIF process that's forthcoming. So in effect, by the time that they need to have all of their DSA approved and everything, that's a 12-month process from now. It would not be the 18-month,
So you can do 12.
12.
Yes. So Senator Leyva, do you want to, is the motion? for
So the
12
motion will
months?
be 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
second.
Seconded by Mr. O'Donnell. Any other public comment? Any other questions from the committee? No? Okay, well, looking down the barrel of $700 million, I can't support it, although I understand where you're coming from. So, Ms. Jones, can you call the roll, please?
Senator Wilk?
Aye.
Senator Leyva? Senator Roth? Assemblymember O'Donnell?
Aye.
Assemblymember Cunningham? Juan Morales?
Aye.
Cesar Diaz? No. And Gail Miller's no.
No. Thanks.
That motion does. That motion does carry.
But we'll still wait for Mr. Kim.
And that's fine, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much
You're
for your
welcome.
time. I appreciate it.
Moving on to tab 7. Mr. O'Donnell, you'll be happy to know that we don't have any public comment. If there's anyone that has any public comment on item 7, if you could please let Ms. Jones know right away. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Silverman.
Okay. Yeah, we just wanted to highlight that on tab 7, page 183, the conversation we've been having over the last few months has been career tech. And we wanted to discuss the funding order and how we proceed with the funding order criteria. And so the program concerns was really equity in the distribution of the funds. And so it was established in the third cycle that, and the regulations have been established in the start of the program, that how we achieve the equity has been through the locale code. And so the first 2 cycles was focused on the service regions, and then the funding, the recent funding has been through the locale code and by scores. So we had received over 220 applications, and we wanted to highlight on page 185 that distribution of funds on the last cycle. And so we had over 90% of our applications did come from urban and suburban locales, and 10% of those applications came from the rural locales. Although 95% of those applications were funded for the rural locales, and only 26% came from urban, and 23% were funded for suburban. So again, I know we did hear a lot of concerns from stakeholders and a lot of interested parties, so we wanted to present some stakeholder meetings and talk about how we can change that. So again, the distribution of funds was accordingly, and as you can see, the rurals did have a lower score as a result of the suburban and locale codes being a different distribution rate. So that was a concern, was the lower scores coming from the rural communities. So we wanted to highlight that, and what we did present to the stakeholder group was a number of different options, and I wanted to share that with you on page 185. So the response we did hear was, the concerns was to move the town locale code as identified in the NCS and move that to the suburban to rural. And by doing that, you actually do change a funding order. So we presented those, that as scenario 1 was to move the town code to suburban to rural and retain the current funding order. And again, that's keeping the locale code. We also had a conversation about different scenarios. That was raised in the first stakeholder meeting by moving the town codes to suburban to rural, but distribute the funding proportionally by the number of applications that we receive by locale code. And then again, still go with the funding order by the highest score and by locale code. We had the conversation also on scenario 2 was to distribute the funds by service regions and also by high school enrollment. And again, service region, locale, and the highest score. Scenario 3 was the funding application by the highest score only and not even considered locale codes at all. And scenario 4 was move town codes to suburban to rural. And again, following the model of the service region by high school enrollment, and then service region, locale code, and the highest score. After the conversations we had with the stakeholder group, overwhelming, we had the conversation. On page 188, I want to direct your attention. So the concerns by changing overwhelming consensus by moving the codes to consider the locale codes by placing the town codes from suburban to rural, that did change the funding order criteria. And so we wanted to highlight that change in itself in the matrix on the top of page 188. And so it really did change the distribution of if we had changed that earlier. And so the scores for the rural communities would have had to been higher. Instead of 111 as reflected in the earlier funding cycle, it would have to raise the scores to 129. And that I would also equally distributed a higher portion of applications would have been considered in that rural category. So the clear takeaway from the stakeholder meeting was to consider moving the town area locale code to suburban to rural. And again, that's a recommendation that staff has at this point in time for regulatory amendments, and we're seeking board approval for that, and also propose regulatory amendments to be adopted for this current open cycle.
Great, thank you. So before we get started on open comment, Steve Golda and Jack Morales want to come on up. This is our third time speaking about this. We've had robust conversation. We appreciate how important this is to folks. We did have the stakeholder meetings around the state, and we have included all of the feedback we've gotten in the agenda. So in summary, keep it short, because,
How about 15 seconds?
okay, deal.
I'm Jack Bareilles from Northern Humboldt Union High School District. We're arcaded in McKinleyville. We are 6 hours north of here. We're suburban, apparently. We're in favor of being qualified as a rural school, as are all of the schools in northwestern California.
Great, thank you.
Steve Gottlieb from Del Norte. We're even more rural than Humboldt. There's less than 30,000 people in our county, and the high school is classified as suburban.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for keeping it brief. Is there any other public comment? Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Diaz,
Second?
seconded by Ms. Morales. Ms. Jones, can you call the roll?
Senator Wilk.
Aye.
Senator DeLeyva. Senator Roth. Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Aye.
Assemblymember Cunningham. Juan Morales.
Aye.
Cesar Diaz. Daniel Kim.
Aye.
Gail Miller.
Aye.
And that motion carries.
Great, thank you. So we're almost done. We have one more item on tab 8.
Yeah, it's just the information item. We have the 90-day workload, and we also have the appeal log.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions on tab 8 information items? Any public comment? Great, thank you. So before we adjourn, we're just going to go back through, Mr. Kim, just so you can vote, but for the rest of the group, that concludes our business. Thank you.
So Assemblymember Cunningham, how do you vote on the minutes? Aye. Okay. And Daniel Kim, how do you vote on the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. Assemblymember Cunningham, how do you vote on the consent calendar? Not voting. Okay, thank you. And Daniel Kim, how do you vote on the consent calendar?
Aye.
And then Daniel Kim, how do you vote on Solano COE? And that was to approve the district's appeal?
Nay.
Okay. And you're all caught up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are adjourned.